Welcome to this webinar that we are hosting as Carto in cooperation with the Snowflake, or dear partner. Today we're going to speak about something that is quite exciting for us, those working in the GIS world, as well as Snowflake, because there are some new functions that have been released on the side of Snowflake that we really want to talk about because they are quite significant and quite important for the for being able to manage very large data sets in a very performant way. So yeah, with me is Oleksii. I am going to present myself first. My name is Marta Bescansa. I'm a solutions engineer at Carto. I've been with the company for like about 2 years now. I'm a total fan of GIS maps, and I really like to work with the data at scale. And with me is Oleksii. Hi, Oleksii. How are you doing?
Hey, Marta. Yeah, my name is Oleksii. I'm a product manager for Geospatial analytics in Snowflake, and I have been with Snowflake for a little bit less than 2 years. I joined in April 2022. And also big fan of everything Geo. Looking forward to this awesome webinar.
Awesome. So I think, like, in order to set the ground for the topic that we're going to expand on, it would be great if we could maybe talk a little bit about what Snowflake is, and then what Carto is, and why we actually make a lot of sense working together, right? So yeah, maybe you can get started with the Snowflake part.
Yep, sounds good. About Snowflake. So I will talk on very high level about what Snowflake is, because I could spend hours explaining all details. But really, the best way to think about Snowflake is as data or cloud-based data platform. And I would even say it's ecosystem. Our customers using Snowflake for all these types of workloads that you can see here. The most popular one probably is the cloud-based data warehouse workload, which we supported from the very beginning. At the same time, customers also use Snowflake as a data lake house, data mesh, and so on. So it's highly scalable and can really ingest any type of data. So whether it's structured data or unstructured, semi-structured data, the brand new capability that we started supporting this year is OLTP type workloads, which we call Unistore. For those who are not aware, OLTP or transactional workloads, those databases that you might be probably familiar with, like Postgres or MySQL, they are really good for high concurrency and low latency use cases where you have single row updates. And that's something that Snowflake started offering from this year as well. So besides those foundational workloads that you can see here in the bottom, Snowflake can handle the entire data engineering process. So we have capabilities to and native tools to provide the data ingestion process, which includes the automated batch ingestion or streaming ingestion. Additionally, we support workloads involving AI and ML, and that's something that we were investing really heavily in the last couple of years, which to the point where basically customers can build the end-to-end ML process from feature engineering and pre-processing all the way to model training and inference. So, as I said, Snowflake is a data platform, and which means that customers, they can run their own applications in Snowflake, and we have container services for this, but also we have native applications capability in Snowflake. So customers can run their own applications, or they can get applications from the marketplace. For example, they can get Carto analytical toolbox, or they can get a Carto platform just from the Snowflake marketplace. And yeah, basically that is Snowflake in a nutshell.
Oh, thanks, Oleksii. Maybe I can jump now to Carto. Yeah, so how does it all make sense, and why is it related to Carto? So basically, like, Snowflake is a data warehouse that allows you to keep your data, analyze it at scale, etc. But something that we see across like many customers is that a lot of their data has always like a spatial component. So Snowflake itself has its own spatial functions that allow you to create some analysis with your data. But when you want to really like focus on spatial use cases that need to be analyzed at a very large scale, etc., you might need something a bit more specific, right? And this is where Carto is actually like coming in. We're basically like a cloud native spatial analytics platform that sits directly on top of Snowflake, enabling users to keep their source of truth within Snowflake and creating these like applications that are spatial at scale, as well as like performing different types of like spatial analysis and workflows. And the idea for the platform as well is not only this like cloud native connectivity, which is like very, very important, but also like to enable and empower any type of user that has ever dealt with data to be able to play with spatial data as well. So democratize, so to say, the GIS world for a lot of different users.
Yeah. And I really like this 3D visualization.
Yeah, looks pretty. So yeah, Snowflake and Carto, as I said, we basically have enabled this like cloud native connector that allows you to connect your Snowflake data warehouse directly into Carto. And with the Carto UI, a whole world of new possibilities with your data, spatial data opens, because it will allow you to perform different like workflows, create dashboards that are really interactive, easy to share, and always without the need to replicate or move data anywhere, because it is directly connected to Snowflake. So I think I have like a brief slide that I like to talk about sometimes whenever we want to put what we are doing nowadays with the spatial data into context, so to say, and this slide helps to visualize it quite well. Very briefly, like the GIS world, I think if you guys have been dealing with the spatial data for a time now, you will probably relate to this. GIS used to be something that's quite niche, so to say, quite isolated as well within organizations. So GIS teams will be, in working with their own softwares, operating in their own terms, etc., a little bit isolated from the rest of the organization, for many different reasons. But one of them was because they were using tools that were not actually like, sourcing data from like a centralized data source that the whole organization could also benefit from. And this started to change a little bit with post-GIS. There started like the possibility of performing spatial analytics within a database was finally introduced. So many different like functions followed, etc. But there is a point where things started to change massively, and that was like with the upcoming of data warehouses such as Snowflake that finally allowed users to take their data and their computing capabilities to the cloud. Basically opening like a whole new world in terms of like how much data and how big the tables can be whenever you want to deal with the spatial analysis. And this is exactly when Carto came along. We've seen the future, so to say, of GIS in this sense, and we basically believe a lot in the sense of performing GIS or spatial workflows using spatial SQL in the data warehouse natively, without the need to replicate data sets or without the need to move them elsewhere if you want to work with it.
Yeah, and that's really cool that like I believe like today the main trend is to bring in the compute closer to the data. And the fact that you're running the queries inside of Snowflake, basically you're not you like exactly sticking to this concept from one side, but at the same time you're not even pulling data outside of Snowflake for those computations.
No, exactly. It's like, I think in the end, it's like relying on, the computing power of Snowflake, and the knowledge of the Carto platform itself can really yield the best results. And this is why we deeply believe in this native connectivity of the data. So I think this is a good moment maybe for you, Oleksii, to talk about what Snowflake can actually do in terms of a spatial analysis alone. And maybe I can add a bit more on what Carto can actually, how can Carto enhance those capabilities as well.
Yeah, sounds good. And we can do a lot with so in terms of spatial capabilities, so we can distinguish here two types of features, like the ones that Snowflake built, we built ourselves, and features that Snowflake partners build on top of the Snowflake platform. And those features, they are offered as marketplace listings. So for instance, when we talk about core features, that includes two data types, geography and geometry. Whenever customers store latitude and longitude, or shapes which use latitude and longitude as coordinates, we recommend geography data type. Whenever customers store some local coordinate systems, like there are thousands of them, basically any country has own coordinate system or several, we recommend geometry data type. For each data type, we have around 60 different functions. They highly performant and designed for great scalability. Another, it's not the type, but it's rather structure. I would say it's a spatial grids, and we support two of those grids, and about one of them we will talk today in more details. But spatial grids, on the high level, we support H3 and GeoHash, so which you can use for tessellation or some grid-based operations. Additionally to those functions and grids, we invest a lot in features that improve the performance of spatial operations. Because many of our customers, they store large data sets, sometimes it's billions of rows, and they often need to join those data sets with some other data sets with also millions or sometimes even also billions of rows. And they do those joins using geospatial column. And for those operations, just joins, which we call them, we implemented fast and efficient joins. Or customers, for instance, they might run lookups where they have, again, large data sets and they need to find a needle in haystack. And in considering that the sizes of those data sets are growing, here I heard somewhere the number that every 5 years sizes of the data sets, they increase by 10x. We need to keep up with the speed. And what is good today in terms of performance not necessarily will be good tomorrow. That is why fast lookups and the geospatial joins is something that always on our plate. We constantly invest in this and improve on this front. So that's what we call core offering. But at the same time, we offer data sets and applications on our marketplace, as I mentioned before, that were built by our partners. And Carto, again, is one of pioneers in this front. You have been offering an analytical toolbox in marketplace for about couple of years. In 2021, it was the first one was added. And this analytical toolbox basically offers some list of functions that we don't provide natively, but you extend our core offering by those features. And today you also offer Carto platform on top of this analytical tool, not on top of, but in parallel to analytical toolbox. So basically customers can get the all features or the whole service from Carto run inside of Snowflake. And this is possible today via native applications and Snowpark container services. Oh, sorry, my microphone fell. Yeah, so that's what we enable for our customers as a partner offerings. And maybe we can talk in more details about this Carto analytical toolbox and what we offer today.
Sure. I think like, to get an understanding of what is already there in Snowflake, what is possible already, it's quite key. And it sets the ground very well to introduce like the Carto Analytics Toolbox. So as Oleksii said, the Carto Analytics Toolbox is basically like a set of functions that I have developed especially for Snowflake in order to enable users that want to create different like analysis, etc., to perform them with maybe like at that more complex level. So within the Analytics Toolbox, we have like, I don't know, I don't remember the number of functions, but a lot of them. And these functions, once you have them in your Snowflake, will allow you to do a lot of things with your data. So you can enrich your data, you can cluster it, you can create tile sets if in case you want to visualize massive data sets. You can also like leverage location data services, transform your data. So a lot of possibilities. You can possibly check the documentation if you want to have like a specific, information about each of them. But today I will also be showing some of them in the demo that I'm going to do afterwards.
Yesterday I was using your random function where I
had to
generate. I had to generate a synthetic data set with customer feedbacks for food delivery company. So I using our LLM, I generated the feedbacks. Then for this new table, I randomly generated like order locations, and that was super helpful. I basically created a data set with like something like 200,000 of rows, and it was super fast.
Nice. Live examples, Snowflake plus Carto. Okay, so this is like in here you can basically understand a little bit more what happens after you have created that connection between Snowflake and Carto. So within like the Carto infrastructure, you will always have the possibility to access that little console that allows you to retrieve your data directly from Snowflake. Even like, allowing the user to perform even like a more granular selection of the data instead of like a plain data load, which is something that you can do. You can also like use the console to only select a certain number of tables, of columns, or like to perform some spatial function. This is something that is also possible within the UI in Carto, and something that I actually leverage a lot. I use it quite often. The UI allows you to upload data directly into Snowflake in a very like intelligent and easy manner. We support a lot of like different formats, and this is something that is also quite key and quite nice about having like a spatial analytics platform. Like
but where I should store those files? Like as far as I understand, I can read shape files, those geo packages from QGIS. Should I upload them somewhere and then?
You basically select if you have something in your own device, you can select that file, and Carto UI will be able to identify the columns and the schema, and then you will be able to choose where you want to place, which schema within your Snowflake you want to place your table. So you basically follow a series of steps and you can do it. And you can also like upload data directly from a URL. So like it's quite nice in terms of like the possibilities that it offers.
Yeah, okay, understood. So like I take it from my local machine. No, that's really cool.
And the geocoding and isochrons, as I mentioned, within the analytics toolbox, we have the the possibility of leveraging location data services. So with Carto, you can, for example, geocode a table that you have in Snowflake that contains, for example, addresses of your customers, let's say. Using the geocoding UI, you will be able to locate in space where those customers are, and for that case, for example, you don't even need to write code itself because we have it embedded in the UI, so it's pretty nice. We also support reverse geocoding. You can also create isolines, so it's quite powerful there.
Really great. Oh,
okay. Yeah, and Oleksii just mentioned very quickly about like the marketplace that is within Snowflake. As he has said, there are many like possibilities of applications that you can acquire within the marketplace. The Carto Analytics Toolbox is one of them. And apart from that, we also have like a series of listings, which are like different like data sets within our data observatory. That you can subscribe to and leverage in order to enrich your spatial analysis that you might be doing at one point. The data catalog of Carto is quite broad. We count with like, I think over 12,000 data sets that cover a lot of different topics. And yeah, the marketplace is just one way to access those data sets in a very like convenient way, so to say.
Yeah, I counted today. You have about like 30 Carto data sets in marketplace today.
Ah, nice. Okay. So I think like we might be able to start talking about the start of the webinar, which is basically H3 spatial indexes. I think it will be great if we can give an introduction of what they are, why are they important for spatial analysis, and how users can actually leverage them with Snowflake, right?
Yeah, I will try to speed up a little bit. I will be faster than I planned initially. But briefly, H3 is a discrete global grid, or sometimes you might hear term spatial index. So basically, it's the way to split the world into the hexagons of equal size. And those hexagons, each of them, they has a unique identifier, which might be a string or integer. In Snowflake, we support both formats. And what are main characteristics of this H3? That it's hierarchical. There is 16 different resolutions. Like on the resolution 0, Earth can be split into 122 hexagons. On resolution 15, there are 600 trillions of hexagons, with the size of each hexagon is less than a square meter. So basically, any point on the Earth surface can be encoded with the hexagon ID. And because when we're talking about area of half of a square meter, we can say that it's a point. Because in geo world, we usually not talking about like mathematical definition of the point, but it's rather some small area. So each point on the Earth surface can be encoded with H3. And by the fact that it's hierarchical and it's represented as string or integer, it enables really fast calculations. And here you can see how this hierarchy look like using this Streamlit application with Carto map. Like we have a hexagon on the 0 level of on the resolution 0, and it can be split in 7 hexagons if we pick the resolution 3 levels. Each of those pink hexagons will be split in 7 other hexagons. What we know about H3 and why we love it so much, because first of all, it's efficient for geospatial manipulations. As I mentioned, you work not with geospatial objects, you do not geospatial joins or lookups, but rather you work with strings and integers, which might be super fast and super efficient. And often customers, in order to speed up calculations on geodata, they convert complex shapes into arrays of hexagons, and then they do those manipulations on the arrays of hexagons.
So yeah, I think like the moment that you get rid of geometry, so to say, the speed at which you can analyze data and perform spatial analysis is just like multiply by I don't know how much.
Yeah, exactly. Another benefit is that because it provides hierarchical framework, data from different sources can be aggregated and analyzed at the same resolution. So you convert objects of different size into arrays of hexagons on this on the one resolution, and you apply those manipulations that you need to apply. Another benefit is the fact that it's objectivity. I didn't know how to define it in the crisp and the more precise way, but like I think objectivity is the right term. So basically, in traditional boundaries that we work with are reflect historical or political or maybe cultural considerations that might be not relevant to some specific analytical needs. And when you use some neutral, mathematically defined grid, it allows analysis based on the special relationships or patterns that basically not influenced by artificial boundaries. You can visualize not you can do aggregations not on the areas of different sizes, but instead aggregations on the hexagons of the similar size. And of course, visualization. When you look at the visualization, it will always can provide or not always, but often it can provide very powerful and impactful insight. Talking about Snowflake, we have about 20 functions, and we plan to add more in the coming months. If you're interested in some functions that go beyond this list, leave us the message in the chat or in Q&A. But basically, customers, they convert latitude and longitude into the cell IDs. They convert points into cell IDs. They convert other way around. They get centroids from the cells. Those are pretty simple manipulations or functions, but we have more complex ones, namely H3 coverage and H3 polygon to cells. So what you need to know about those two functions, they tessellate shapes, they convert complex shapes into arrays of hexagon IDs. And the difference is that in case if you use polygon to cells, it returns the array of cells whose centroids belong to the initial shape. And this is super useful, for instance, when you have multiple shapes, maybe those shapes, they adjacent to each other, and you want to return the array of cells that correspond to each shape, but you want to be sure that any hexagon corresponds to one and only one shape. And in this case, we will take into account only centroids on those hexagons. At the same time, when you run some complex geospatial manipulations, like for instance, if you run geospatial, not geospatial, but you do joins using those H3 cells. In this case, centroids might be not enough. You might need the full coverage of shape with the hexagons. And for this, we created in Snowflake function H3 coverage, which, as you can see, on the scale of this New York City, it basically returns more hexagons than in case of the polygon to cells. And another, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just wondering, when do you think it's more useful to use one function or the other?
Let's say if you use it for visualizations, or when you want to get unique cells, unique list cells for each shape. As I said, if you want to be sure that every hexagon corresponds to only one shape, then probably polygon to cells is the right fit. Or if you work on the local scale, because polygon to cells takes into account or rather do not take into account that Earth is not flat but spheroid. And for instance, if you go from local scale to global scale, where points connected not by straight lines but rather by arcs, polygon to cells might return unexpected results. Let's put it this way. At the same time, H3 coverage it sticks to the same geometry as we use in our geography data type, which takes into account that Earth is a spheroid, and airplanes they fly not by straight lines but actually by arcs. And whenever you do tessellation of those large objects on the scale of the whole continent, for instance, in this case, I would say H3 coverage is more useful. And if you do if you replace geospatial drawings by drawings using cell IDs, in this case, also H3 is more relevant because it's like full coverage would be the only right way to join two data sets. Maybe we will talk, like I will speed up with these examples. Like we have multiple industries who use H3. It's logistic or urban mobility and food delivery is the most active one. Logistic also, as I mentioned, like we have here examples of taxi pickups, and often those companies from those industries, they convert pickup locations or drop-off locations or like driver's locations to the cell IDs, and then they run some machine learning models where they predict the signal for the next half an hour, let's say. Or logistic companies, they, instead of calculating the absolute distances between points, which might be expensive if you have data sets with billions of rows, they start calculating the grid distance between those points. And in this case, it might be much faster, and it might be useful when you don't need the exact distance, but maybe you like knowing that 2 points, they are like the distance between 2 points more than 5 kilometers, and you don't need to know exactly if it's like 5 kilometers and 200 meters or 5 kilometers or 500 meters. In this case, you can speed up manipulations or calculations of the distance by replacing the ST distance by grid distance using cell IDs. Like mobile operators, they switch from when they calculate coverage of roads by their network, instead of calculating the like joining two data sets with millions of shapes, with data set with like hundreds of thousands of shapes, they basically do conversion of those coverage shapes and get the arrays of cell IDs, and then they apply similar manipulation on the roads. They tessellate roads using ST coverage, and then they join those two data sets using cell IDs. But the most exciting probably thing about H3 is that any company that maybe like their business might be not focused on the geospatial, but they still might have some geospatial data. And like Snowflake is a good example for this. Geo is not our main domain, but at the same time, we know some information. Like we have some information. Like for instance, we have, I don't know, billing locations of our customers, or we know login locations of Snowflake customers, and we can visualize this data. And different teams might derive different insights or action based on this knowledge. Like for instance, here you can see login locations of Snowflake customers, and obviously we see here the spike, and maybe cybersecurity team might adjust some their policies or like rollout strategy based on the fact that they see that like in certain area there are more logins from our customers than from other areas.
Sounds like New York is a hotspot. I don't know if it's New York exactly, but
not true. It's like it's close to New York, but that's that's not New York. But if you would, for instance, go to the higher level of detailization, maybe you would find what this area corresponds to. That's basically on the high level about H3. And here I'm probably handing over screen sharing to you, Marta, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just like very quickly share my screen so I can proceed with a demo. Why? Well, 1 minute. Let me see. So the reason why we are actually like to talking so much about H3 spatial indexes, etc., is because it matters a lot in the way, of course, Oleksii just mentioned it, how easy it is to perform a spatial analysis once you have transformed your data to spatial indexes such as H3. And something that is quite characteristic about the platform and very unique about the Carto platform is that we are cloud native, and we also we have as native support for spatial indexes, meaning that if you have your data transformed to spatial indexes, the speed at which we can render your data is basically super fast. And now that we are going to have a native H3 functions within Snowflake, the speed at which analysis can be performed will only get faster and more and quicker, of course. So I'm going to show you the platform super quick with a couple of examples, because I think something that is quite interesting is to see how these things actually articulate themselves and why they can be useful to create dashboards and analysis very quickly. So we're going to do this in 2 steps. One, I'm going to show you something simple so you can have an idea of what an H3 function looks like and why and how it can be applied to your data. And then we're going to dive into a more complex use case. So what you're seeing here right now in my screen is basically the Carto workspace, right? I'm going to dive directly into workflows, but just for you to understand, here is on the left side, you will have all the tabs that allow you to navigate throughout the whole components that we have. So if you come here to connections, you will already see the possibility to create, if you click on new connection, it will already give you the possibility to create a Snowflake connection to your data. So once that has happened, if you come to the Data Explorer, this is where you will be seeing all the data that is sitting on your Snowflake and the different schemas, etc. For each of those tables, you can have a preview in terms of a map and also of a table. Maybe the cluster is trying to, there you go. So whenever you have connected your data to Snowflake, whatever is sitting on your Snowflake is something that can be directly visualized without being able, without needing to be moved elsewhere or anything in Carto. So if I click on any table that I have on my Snowflake, I will always have a map preview and then the details of my table. In this case, it's a tile set, but I can choose any other table and I'll get the same result. So basically always a map preview and then the data table preview with all the columns, etc. So there are many things that you can do with Carto, but I'm going to jump directly into workflows, because workflows is an area of the product where you are going to feel very comfortable working with the spatial data, as you do not need to write SQL yourself. So all those functions that Oleksii has explained can be executed directly in Snowflake. But if you want to create a spatial analysis without typing in any SQL, you can start doing that with workflows. So what is workflows? Workflows is basically a UI that allows you to access the sources that you have connected. So in this case, I have a connection to my schema in my Snowflake. That allows you to join the tables that you want to work with different components that contain different spatial functions. So for example, in this case, all you need to do is basically drag and drop the table that you want to work with. In this case, I have a table with cell towers in New York. You can see that it has 150K records. Here you will always have a preview in terms of the data and also for the map itself. So yeah, it's it's quite a big data set. So the idea is you have a bunch of points, whatever they are. In this case, it's cell towers. It might be customer locations. It might be your stores. And you want to aggregate that data in order to understand or identify, where the incidence of those points is higher, right? So all you need to do in that case is come here to components, and you can look for, the different components that we have available. But in terms of H3, in this case, we will need the component H3 from GeoPoint that is basically going to aggregate that data from those points to the granularity of H3 that you actually specify. So in this case, I have specified the resolution 8, but I can go up to 15. I think someone was asking this in the crowd. So yeah, we support like resolutions from 0 to 15. And in the end, after each step, you can see what the outcome has been and also what it looks like in terms of a map. And in the end, all I'm doing is basically like using another component, which is the group by, in order to not have like duplicate H3 cells, but to have unique H3 cells with the count of points there are in each of those cells. So once you have enabled like or performed this analysis, you only need to click on run. And this should be like be run quite fast. I can basically come here to the result that I've gotten. I just click on create map, and this takes you directly to the builder UI, so to say. This is the part of the platform that is going to allow you to create maps that contain different widgets that allow you to explore your data, etc. So in this case, if I wanted to, you know, just look at the count and the distribution of that count within my data set, I can already do so by creating this. And then I can also use like a widget in order to filter, let me see, and let's make this 10. And I have in 2 seconds a very simple map, but this map is already allowing me to filter locations by amount of incidence. So this would be like the first example, very simple. I have a bunch of points. I want to aggregate them into H3, visualize them correctly, and understand where the highest incidence is. This is another example that I had just prepared. But I'm going to jump directly to the second use case that I had that contains something that is a little bit more complex. So within like the Carto analytics toolbox, we offer a lot of different functions. We have like a specific module that allows you to calculate different statistics, so spatial correlations, etc. So in this case, what I have done is taken like a table that contains accident events within the city of Barcelona. And what I am trying to do here is basically perform a space-time hotspot analysis to identify cluster of accidents that's throughout time in Barcelona. So basically, these hotspots are actually computed using the extension of the GetThis.org.gi statistics, which basically measures the degree to which data values are actually clustered together in space and time. So in order to do so, I am basically making use of some different components within the workflows UI. So I'm using this one in order to create an aggregation of my data to H3. I'm grouping them by the cells. Here is the part of that contains like the component, the statistic itself. And then in the end, I'm creating some like simple filters that allow me to just select the cells that are actually having like a confidence value higher than 0.05. And also like the GI statistic, which is like the end result that has like an average that is positive, that has like a positive value, so to say. So the good thing about like workflows is like at each step of the workflow itself, you can actually modify what you are executing. So in this case, I am doing my whole analysis and basing it in a resolution of H3 of 11. But if I wanted to change this, I could just write 8, click on run, and the whole workflow will get computed again, executed again natively within Snowflake, because all this is like in the end compiling SQL code that is running natively on Snowflake and being saved in the table that I have specified in this last component here. So yeah.
And a quick question, if I use resolution 15, for instance, can I visualize this in Carto? Or
yeah,
it's
of course.
granular? Yeah, okay.
I can basically like click on here, right? Click on run. I have changed it there, click on run, and it will probably like take a while. But basically, this is like what workflows looks like whenever it's being run. And right now, the whole analysis that I had just created it's being run trying to see the resolution 15 itself, for example. But I think maybe like no need to do it now. So yeah, basically once you have created the analysis itself and you have landed everything into like a data table and your Snowflake, you can use that table to plot your results, so to say, and allow viewers to understand and inspect results. So in this case, the end table is allowing us to understand what the incidence of accidents in terms of concentration is in each day of the month. So basically with this like a slider that we can actually just, create within Builder, this allows the user to select, different days of the month. And that's incidence, or those hotspots will actually be visualized according to that in a very, I think, user-friendly way.
And that's
in the end,
now it shows the areas with high probability of incidents.
Exactly. And the good thing about this is that it's not only like showing you where, you can also control when. So, it's like added information in order to inspect your data and understand a bit better where like hotspots are in a given moment in time at a performant way. So now we're dealing with, I think, 15,000 records, but this can be scaled up quite a lot.
I see. So where should I be careful in Barcelona?
Depends on the day of the month. On day 5th, looks like an example here. It's a little bit complicated. And for those of you that want to get started with Carto and these workflows, and you want to experiment a little bit with data, etc., I just want to point you to the Carto Academy, because this is a place where you can actually, download this exact example that I had just showed you. And it will allow you, if you sign up for a trial, to execute it yourself, play with the components, tweak like the different parameters. So you will see how like responsive and flexible it is. And this is like where you can actually find a lot of like different examples, etc. So I think we made it 50 minutes, right? Awesome. on time. Yeah, I'm going to, I think, right.
Yeah. Sorry. I wanted to say that what I like in this workflows is that you can comment each section with some supportive with this color coding and supported text.
Yeah, I actually missed that part. I missed to mention that you can actually do so by just clicking here and creating notes. And these notes actually like support like a markdown language. So this is something that you can like, it's quite flexible in terms of like the things that you can like display, etc. And also like something else that you can do, I think in this organization that I'm in, it is not enabled, but you can also schedule workflows to be executed every X amount of time. So if you're, for example, foreseeing that your table is going to be updated at some point, you can, for example, schedule a workflow that you have created to be, run every day at 8 p.m., for example.
So I can build my pipeline using this workflow.
You can create your pipeline. You can like, create your ETL processes, so to say, then perform some spatial analysis, land it in a table, connect that to a dashboard that you create with several widgets, etc., and have that all orchestrated within Snowflake, and like always being updated according to what is like stored in Snowflake, right? So this is like, I guess, the great advantage about it.
That's really awesome. And I believe that if I, for instance, still want to use some like tool I get used to, I don't know, some Airflow, for instance, or something else, I can get the SQL code and run this code outside of
exactly. I think I might be able to show where the code actually gets compiled. So in these data tabs, after each of the different steps, you can see the data, the map, and also the SQL that is actually being compiled under the hood. And this is exactly what is being executed on your Snowflake. But the advantage is that you can export this as well, the SQL code. But if you don't want to see a line of code, you can just, use the different components that we have.
Yeah, I impressed how in the recent years the whole ETL process was democratized.
I know. I think it's like making things easy for users is the way to go, no? In terms to, open the GIS and the spatial analytics world to more and more users. Okay, so I think I arrived to the final part of the webinar. Oleksii, I wrote here some main takeaways. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I was thinking about like what can be concluded right after like this time that we have spent explaining Snowflake and Carto together and all the H3 capabilities. For me, like one thing that is super clear is that working with spatial indexes just has gotten even more performant thanks to the good news that you have relieved your own native H3 functions, which is fantastic news. And of course, like since I was able to showcase a little bit what workflows is about and how Carto can actually work with Snowflake within this like environment, I think working with spatial data just got a bit, I think, much easier in the end for people that are not into SQL maybe.
Exactly, and that's what I hear from our customers when I talk to them and showcase them H3. They say that actually we're thinking that geospatial is something like complex, and in order to start using geospatial data, we need to have, I don't know, like geospatial expert or data scientist whose focus is geospatial. But after seeing the demo, like we probably will go and start visualizing data which we maybe even before didn't consider to visualize. And I'm quite sure that everyone who listening us here, they have some flavor of geospatial data. So the main takeaway would be just to go run, convert your geospatial data into H3 and visualize this in Carto.
Great message. Okay, so I think we might have some time to answer some questions. I will stop sharing my screen now. And maybe we can look at
So first question, I already opened this. The first question is, can Carto show all H3? That's one I already asked. So can Carto show all H3 resolutions from 1 to 15? Some systems are limited and can only show up to resolution 5. Does Carto have any limitations when it comes to H3? I'm guessing no, there is no limitations.
No, there's no limitation. We like support all the resolutions of H3. So, and also like, as you have seen, whenever you are like trying to aggregate data to an H3 cell, you can also, if you're working with workflows, it gives you like the flexibility to play with the granularity all the times that you want.
Awesome, thanks. Another question is, any way to work with raster data using Carto with my raster data hosted on Snowflake?
This is something, yeah.
Not necessarily related to H3, but still it's probably also important topic today.
Good news is yes, we are enabling the capabilities of working with raster data within like a data warehouse more and more. We have released some capabilities already in order to upload raster data directly to Snowflake and then visualize it. I'm not quite sure if it's already released or is about to be released, but the answer to this question is yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, with this, moving on the next question, are the native H3 functions already available in Carto workflow? So basically, are you using native functions under the hood, or it's Carto analytical toolbox functions?
So right now, I think we have started this week because you guys just released the native functions. When was it? 1 week ago or?
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so we have started implementing those functions, the native functions within the components in workflows this week. So I think they will be available very, very soon. So basically, every time you use like an H3 component in workflows, working with the Snowflake, you will be working with the native Snowflake functions.
Okay, so to understand, you will not deprecate those functions. Functions still will be there, so whoever used them before, they will keep using them. They don't need to change anything in their pipelines. Just basically what they should expect, they will get faster functions for free.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was the last question.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Marta, for inviting me. That's I'm personally I'm a big fan of H3 and super excited to talk about it.
I have to say that I'm a big fan of a Snowflake, and this is something real. It's like a data warehouse that I've been like discovering more and more in the last year, and it's just like super nice to work with it together with Carto. There are so many things that can be done right now with it.
Awesome. Thank you. Can say the same about Carto.
Nice. So that would be it, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Marta. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too, Oleksii. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank
Bye.
you.